Michigan State's not going to be afraid to get in a running match with us. They do as good a job as anybody in the country getting the ball out of the net after makes, after misses, pushing it up the floor. You know, if you look on Ken Palm, their tempo is not that high, but that's because in their half court offense, they take their time to get a good shot, but in transition, they're out. They're trying to get layups and they're doing a good job of it. So we've got our hands full, but we're looking forward to it. I mean, they're talented. They're good. Hauser's one of the best big wings, shooting wings, in the country. Sissoko's coming along great. One of the better big men in the country. He's come on as, they're getting solid point guard play. Hoggard's, I think, top 3 in the country in assists right now. So he's moving the ball, doing a great job running their offense. They added some transfer shooting. So, I mean, they're good. So we're going to have to play well to beat them.
Nick?
Yeah, over the course of this trip to Portland, what do you want to see your team do in terms of taking a next step, or what do you maybe hope to learn about your squad?
I mean, it's going to be our first real test, against another high major team. So I want to see if we can continue to rebound like we have. We're obviously not going to continue to rebound like we have with the rebounding margin, but can we out rebound a team in Michigan State? I mean, shoot, I've been working Michigan State basketball camp since before I took a high school job in Detroit. And that was back, I think I worked their camp and they won the national championship in 2000. So it's been over 20 years. I mean, this is Coach Izzo's teams are the best rebounding teams in the country just about every year. I mean, they're always one of the best rebounding teams. So can we rebound the ball against one of the premier rebounding programs in the country? That's a test. Can our guys withstand the physicality of a tough Big Ten team and not let it get to their head? They're going to obviously try to be physical with us. We got to, be men about it. They're not going to call every foul. Some of the physicality isn't a foul. It's just tough physical basketball, and we're going to have to handle it. So, can we take care of the ball? Can we rebound it? Can we be physical without fouling? Can we handle their physicality without letting it get to our heads? Those are some of the big questions I've got.
Charlie?
Yeah, Coach, you talked about, working those camps at Michigan State. Coach Izzo was talking about that yesterday. Is it kind of surreal to be coaching against him at another high major program, given where you kind of started your career?
Yeah, it is, to be honest with you. I mean, he's a guy I've always looked up to. I mean, I grew up in Wisconsin. I moved to Detroit area to take a high school job. And honestly, part of it was, I was kind of right there in the same state. Like he was always great to me when I worked camps before I took the Ramos job. And then when I took the Ramos job, I was up there all the time. I mean, I'd take the team up there at team camp. We'd go up and watch his practices. I've always looked up to him. He was always great to me as a high school coach. As a matter of fact, I think Greg called Izzo before he hired me to kind of ask him about me. So in a small way, he helped me get the job. It's not like I have a real mentor that I worked a long time for under this. Coach Hurley got me into this, and it's the only guy I've ever worked under in Division I. So, but I spent 11 years in Michigan, going up to Michigan State frequently, often. They were always helpful. So it is a little surreal. I mean, good thing is I don't have to play Coach Izzo. He's got a lot more wins than I got. I got some pretty good players that I get to coach. So my players get to play his players, and we both got pretty good players. So it should be a pretty good game. So it's, but it'll be a little different going down and shaking his hand before this game.
Mike?
Yeah, you just sort of touched on it there, but just when you were coaching, some of those state playoff games at Romulus and in the Breslin Center, did you ever think you'd be coaching against Tom Izzo, not on that court, but just in Portland, Oregon, of all places? And also just wanted to ask about, the Nick Saban connection there as well, between Tom Izzo and Nick Saban, and what sort of role that might have played.
Yeah, we played plenty of state playoff games at the Breslin Center, and I never thought I'd coach against Coach Izzo. This wasn't when I was a high school coach. I still feel like I'm a high school coach that caught a couple breaks in life. So I didn't really ever dream of that back then. I, would have loved to get in somewhere and coach. And, we've had a pretty good run here over the last few years. So I'm here at Alabama coaching against them. So now we got to prep our guys. And like I said, we've got some talented guys just like they got, and we're gonna have a good game. But the Izzo and Saban connection, they both worked there at Michigan State together, and Saban's a huge basketball fan. And the first time I met Saban, we talked about Izzo, and I've talked with Izzo about Saban when I see him on the road, and those two are still pretty well connected and stay in touch. And I going all the way back to those Michigan State days. So we've sort of talked to both those two about each other, and they got a ton of respect for each other. And I'm just trying to win a couple games here at Alabama in the basketball program. We're a long ways behind Michigan State basketball as far as tradition, and long ways behind Alabama football as far as tradition. But we've got a pretty good team this year, and I think we're gonna have a great game against Michigan State on Thursday.
Tony,
Hey Nate, first off, I think I'd pick you over Tom in a game of one-on-one.
I'm a couple years younger, so it might help. I don't know.
How much is depth gonna help in this 3-game stretch? And then how much of a full strength is your roster at the moment?
You know what? They're not as deep as what they typically may have been. They're playing about 9 guys, sometimes 8. 8 decent amount. So I think hopefully we can make a difference. Now, if we were playing them on Sunday instead of Thursday, it would probably have a lot bigger difference. When they're playing their 3rd game in 4 days, they're coming off rest. I mean, we both played our last game Friday. So, they're not afraid to run. They actually like to run. I mean, Coach Izzo's always ran. We run, we play fast. So it's going to be a up and down game a little bit. Now in the half court, they play a little bit slower than we do. And I think their offensive rebounding makes their tempo look a little bit slower because they're good on the glass too. But, I think we are deeper now. We don't have our full roster yet. I mean, Darius and Dom Darius has been in practice a limited amount. Dom still has not done anything live in practice. Darius is starting to do live stuff. We'll see how Darius is tomorrow as to whether he can go Thursday. I'd say he's more probable than Dom right now, but they're both still up in the air. So we'll have 10 healthy players for sure. Maybe 11. I don't know. Hopefully we get Darius back here soon, and then I think Dom will be a little bit behind Darius.
Katie,
Kind of bouncing off that, you talk about this being the first, real testing. It's a high major team. How valuable was it to be able to get JQ minutes the last 2 games to kind of ease him back in before y'all enter, the tougher part of the non-conference schedule?
Yeah, I thought it was big because you don't want to throw him in the first game against somebody like Michigan State. So, maybe a month and a half ago when we saw his rehab was coming along quicker than maybe planned and it was coming better, we kind of looked to this game, can we get him for the Michigan State game? And then, all right, if we're going to try to get him for that game, let's try to get him some minutes before that to try to get him some game reps. So that's why we put him in the South game, just to kind of get his feet wet, if you will. And then he's kind of on a minutes restriction. The last game against Jacksonville State, I mean, he's pretty much full ready to go now. Like, we use him as we need. So it's good to have him. I think he can break them down a little bit, collapse the defense, hopefully get us some threes. They're going to have a great game plan. They always do. So, they're going to be ready for him and Sears and Bradley, whoever at the point. But I do think he can break down some of their guards and get in the paint and help us out, get some open threes.
anyone else?
Yeah, just wanted to follow up if I could. Just in some of these MTEs you played the last few years, I think you're 0-3 in the opening games, whether it's Stanford, Iona, North Carolina. Just how important is it to get off to that good start in the first game, sort of unlock some of those better opponents, maybe like North Carolina, for instance, here on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously better getting the winners bracket. We haven't been able to do that, but we've recovered pretty well on all, most of those tournaments, depending year to year. But, Michigan State's better than those teams we played too. So it's a little bit tougher first round opponent, but this is a different team too. Those other teams are a little different. I know we've got the same coaching staff, and maybe we got to do something a little different preparation wise, but we want to make sure we're fresh. We don't want to overdo it. So we've we gave our guys that we played Friday, we gave them Saturday and Sunday off, basically gave them video to study, and then we've got after it pretty hard yesterday and today in practice. Now, we'll lighten up, but want to make sure we're fresh, but I also want to make sure we're prepared. So, I think the staff does a good job preparing them. We got to make sure they're mentally ready to go for this first round. And yeah, you're right. If you win that first game, you got two better, opponents typically, and you can get three real quality opponents in a field like this.
We good?
I got one more. Yeah, Nate, are you still there? Oh yeah, I guess so. You talked about, Michigan's this being your first big test, but Michigan State's obviously played a couple of big teams already. Do you think that that's an advantage, or do you think that your team is kind of ready for this game? Have they been tested enough heading into this game?
I mean, we played 4 good mid-majors. It's definitely not the same as playing Gonzaga, and Villanova and Kentucky. So they're definitely more tested than we are. There's no question about it. Can't deny it. I mean, it is what it is. It's the way our schedule when, Izzo's schedule's tough. So do we. He played tougher games earlier. So they're probably a little more ready, and shoot, it's paid off well for them. I mean, they're 3-1, really probably should be 4-0, like I said. So, we're gonna have to come out of the gate ready to play because they have played tougher teams, and at this point, it is what it is. We've got to be ready to go, even though we haven't quite played the schedule they played. But I think we played some decent teams and played well against them. And I don't know with our group, with the amount of freshmen that are in rotation, if it would have been that smart to play as tough a schedule as he did in the first 4 games for us. I think we're doing it right, and we'll see where we're at on Thursday.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.